Hey, so what is your take on the Yadier Molina situation? Not that anybody would be surprised that his knees ache, but you know what I'm saying. It doesn't seem to be the timetables seems to be, unless I missed something today, seems to be really unclear. So that makes you wonder how serious it is.
Well, there probably isn't any reason to go into a surgery like this. This is his last year, He'll just
Right.
do it as best he can. And as far as he and Wainwright breaking the record, Molina will be healthy enough to catch Wainwright the 8 more times it will take. I mean, Wainwright's going to have 20 more starts. So the main purpose is to get him healthy enough where he can actually be a contributing player. He's hurting him right now because he can't move. And he was despondent the other night. He threw that ball in the outfield. He can't get around. He can't block balls like he has before. He was not hitting well. He just needs a break here. And maybe if it takes till the end of the month, so be it. If it takes till the 4th of July, so be it. Get him back strong for the second half of the season because he can help them get where they're going, but not the way he's playing now.
What Commiss, because I confess to you, sir, and all those years of relying on you, it's not surprised I'm still doing it. I didn't do the math, the calculations. If let's just say they were thinking, look, we'll just keep him out through the All-Star break, and then he should be fine. Would they have enough opportunity to get those? Do they need 9 starts or 8 starts? I forget, to break the record.
9 to break it, but this is Wainwright's. I think it's his 13th tonight, maybe. 12th
Yeah, it
or
is.
13th.
It is. Yeah,
And
13.
And he would get 32 in a normal season. Now his arm has to hold up too for this to happen.
Sure.
But he's going to have between now and the All-Star break, he would have probably 5 starts at most. That gives him 18. He's still got 14 left.
Yeah, there you go.
Molina has to catch only 9 of them. So that's what I would do. I mean, I would see how he is in 10 days. First of all, if he's fine by the 27th of June, okay. And if he's not fine, then take it. The All-Star break is actually kind of late this year. It isn't until July the 18th, so maybe he'd be back between the 4th of July and the 18th. He wouldn't need to wait that long, really.
Right.
They only have like 65 games after the break, so that'd be 14. That'd be about 14 starts then, yeah.
Well, Kisner got off to a pretty good start this season, and then he hasn't hit much. And Marmol told you guys last weekend, I believe it was. He kind of called him out, not in a like a nasty way, but he basically said, hey, he's playing more, and he just needs to take better at bats, and he knows that. So he called him out a little bit. So I think this puts him in a pretty big spot. And now they've got their top catching prospect on the way to Boston, and there's a lot of buildup on him. I think this sort of puts Kisner on a little bit of a hot seat right now. I mean, do you agree?
A little. I mean, he's going to handle the veteran pitchers that he's handled before. He's going to handle Miklasz. He's going to handle Wainwright. He has caught Wainwright a number of times before. He's handled Miklasz. Miklasz's big run, his games have all occurred with Kisner catching. I don't know if people have been aware of that, but all these great games Miklasz has pitched, Kisner has caught him. And then you have Hudson. Hudson will be fine with him. And then I would think he would catch 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 of the game. Let's say they have 7 games on this trip. Kisner should catch 5, and they ought to have Herrera catch 1. In each place, I'd have Herrera catch Palante, for instance, on Sunday if Palante is able to pitch. He's handled him before in the minor leagues. And then I'd have Herrera catch 1 game in Milwaukee, probably the day game after the 3 night games. Because Miklasz will pitch Monday, he'll handle that one. Flaherty will pitch Tuesday, he'll handle that one. Wainwright will handle that one. And then you have maybe Hudson for Thursday. Maybe Herrera could catch that one. And that's where you'd go and see how it is after that. If Herrera has suddenly shown you that he's ready to be a more regular player up here, well, then you catch him more often. But I'd just say 1 game in each city for the time being.
Do you, Commissioner, and I hate to put you on the spot, but did Molina make the trip to Boston? Because I know that the Red Sox are, the players were. There was a really good piece in The Athletic about this, written by the guy that covers the team in Boston, about the pretty, significant number of Red Sox players, to say the least, were really fired up that Molina and Pujols were coming in for the last time. And I don't know whether he wanted to go on the plane. I mean, because he's got some friends on that team too. And I know that in particular, his fellow Puerto Ricans on that team were, I think that would mean a lot to Yadi. I just don't know whether he felt physically up to taking that flight. I'll be curious.
I don't think he went with the team. I don't know if he went today or not, but that's probably not a very good idea for him to do that.
Right.
And you had Alex Cora was a Cardinal briefly in the spring of many years ago. He dressed right next to Molina in spring training for the spring. The time he was there, and then they cut him. The Red Sox manager. So I can't swear by. I don't think he took.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, anyway. I don't. I'd be surprised if he is. You're absolutely right. Rick Hummel with us. Do you have any theories about why, to this point, Michael Wacha's been able to have such an excellent season? And I hope he continues, because he's certainly been through a lot with that shoulder blade issue. But what do you think about what he's done so far?
I guess it's just health. I see he's throwing 96, 97 again. That's amazing, because he hasn't thrown that hard for 5 or 6 years, but maybe that stress reaction in his shoulder has finally healed after 5 or 6 years, and good for him. He did okay with Tampa last year, and he was hurt a little bit in that short season with the Mets in 20, and then of course, his last year here was 19 when he was set to pitch, Game 5 of the League Championship Series, which never happened. They lost in 4. And that he never pitched the last game he would have pitched for the Cardinals. But it's great for him. His ERA, he had was 2.33. I think he shut out the Angels. Of course, we could have found 11 guys or 9 guys to beat the Angels ourselves at one stretch there, but nonetheless, he did shut them out. And then Seattle knocked him around a little bit his last start. So let's see how he does tonight. But good for him that he's back, and that's got to be an emotional game for him too. He and Wainwright went through a lot together.
Wacha just speaks of him, as you would expect, like in the highest possible terms. I mean, Wainwright was there for him during his really hard times, where he goes from being the best young pitcher in baseball, and then all of a sudden it's like, is he ever going to have a chance to pitch well again? And Wacha's a really good guy, but man, he indicated in an interview in Boston, he really leaned hard on Wainwright when he was kind of down and out as far as uncertainty over his pitching career, So, I mean, in a way, it's great that they're matched up, but I wonder if, in a way, it's also maybe hard for them to pitch against each other. They're probably great competitors; they don't care.
I think it's gut wrenching probably as they go into it. When they get on the mound, they can't worry about that, especially since neither one gets to bat against the other one again. And Wainwright would surely win that one, because Wacha was a horrible hitter, but they wouldn't have hit in Boston anyway. But if they'd had that game here, he wouldn't be hitting. But that'll be fun to see. And I think when it's all over, like tomorrow, they'll get together for a long talk, I would suspect, or Sunday, whatever benefits them the most, and catch up on a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. Commissioner, one more thing for you. With Donovan doing what he's doing, and Yepez started to cool down, but he's kind of ratcheted it up again. I mean, Gorman, for whatever flaws that he has, I mean, his OPS plus is still like 122, which is good. And the impact that these three guys have had on the offense, and then the return of Carlson and O'Neill, what is your longer range view of this offense for the rest of the season?
It would be more ideal if they could give Yepez the more at-bats as the DH, and maybe they can do that. I mean, they're kind of obligated to play Albert about once a series to keep him sharp, and I mean, the fans want to see him, They are. This game is for the fans too, and as long as there's a left-handed pitcher pitching, Albert is a contributing player. A big-time contributor. His average against left-handers is phenomenal this year. Unfortunately, there are very few left-handers. But Yepez probably needs to be out of the field and in a DH role. That will be his future with his team, I think. And he had been playing pretty well in the outfield until he took that secured his route to that ball and then near no hitter the other night. But he played it so poorly, they scored, didn't have any choice but to call in there, even though he never touched it. I see that as happening now. Donovan has to play at least 5 or 6 times a week, if not 7. Doesn't have to be the same position. Could be left, right, first, second, third. Very much. And I wouldn't name him center. He hadn't played center field at all. And then the third question, which we haven't touched on here, is what happens to DeJong? He hasn't quite had the week this week that he had the last 2 weeks, but he doesn't deserve to be down there anymore. That's either trade him or bring him up.
I wonder what the market would be, the trade market would be for him. I don't know whether you and I were talking about this the last time, or maybe I was talking with Derek. But the situation where unless the Cardinals are going to eat a lot of the remaining money, you would say, well, I got to see this guy in the major leagues, see if he's really gotten better. Or I can't just trade for him.
I have to see him playing for my team one more time before I make a decision to move him. Is what you're saying, right? And you're right about that. He was a regular shortstop for 4.5 years, and yes, he had an awful 2 months, but and not a very good 2021 either. Although he did 19 homers or something like that. But you have to find out now how that affects everybody else. They're better off with Edman at second base than at shortstop. He's okay at short, pretty good actually, really good at second. Gorman has been better than I thought at second, including the other night when he was spectacular. Right. But he could be a DH against right-handed pitching, so that would cost Yepez a chance to play. And maybe the way it would be for a while. Somehow, it could be as a utility guy where you could play him some other positions, and maybe you get some mileage out of him that way. They're not using Sosa very much. I don't know what you do with him. I'm not sure what his option status is. He may not have any left.
I don't think he does.
You might risk losing him if you make that move with DeJong. That's all kinds of balls in play here, but DeJong has to have another chance to play here once and for all. And I'm not sure how long that chance should last, but he deserves that chance one more time.
And even that, now please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not with this kind of stuff. I'm not exactly an expert in knowing what the regulations are. If they would bring DeJong up, I'm under the impression they wouldn't be able to send him down unless they designate him for assignment, because hasn't he reached the 5-year threshold now?
Right. He had an option left, but it had to be exercised before he was the 5-year player. Now, his days to get to 5 years is maybe how many days they would have to decide that. I don't know. I think he could refuse the assignment, but then he would be refusing, $6 million or whatever, which was kind of silly on his part, I would think.
Yeah.
What was left of the contract for this year. So, yeah, when he comes up, he will be kind of appreciable time at all here. A week or two, he'd be a player, and he could then not have to go to the minors, but then also they'd have to designate him then, and somebody will easily pick him up and that score if you don't have to trade for him and pay them. You just sign up wherever you want to, and the Cardinals are on the hook for the money. But I know people. He's not their favorite player right now, and everybody else is. Gorman's hot, and people like him, and people love Edman no matter where he plays. People like Yepez a little, Donovan, as they should. And there's it's a bag full of riches for the Cardinals at most positions. Unfortunately, one of those right now is not catcher.
I know. Well, Herrera's going to get a shot at some point, and that's not too far away, even if it's most of that shot or opportunity comes next spring and early next season. Can you talk for a couple more minutes? I don't want to over.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
sure.
Oh, okay, good. Because I keep thinking of stuff I want to ask you about. All right, what was your thoughts on Flaherty's debut, and do you think he'll be better the second time out, which will be in Milwaukee next week, unless something happens?
I think he'll be better. He'll be pitching Tuesday, I believe. He threw okay. His location was a little off. His fastball had some hop on it. he walked two guys and hit one. That really isn't like him. That's where his command issue was lacking. He made a terrible throw on a bunt, matched only by the next terrible throw by Molina on the next bunt.
Right.
And, and Donovan could only knock down a ball by the speedy Daniel Vogelbach, a shooter in his own right. Who should have
he
been
really
a double
is.
Play. Should have been a double play to end the inning. Instead, it ended up being the guy from third scored, and then there's another run a hit after that. So there should have been no runs scored, and Flaherty actually allowed 4. His last inning was spotless, 3 ground balls, and he looked terrific. So I guess that's what you take the most out of that. Once he got settled in, he was fine. Now they have to have more than 3 innings the next time. It'll be 75 pitches, which should be 5 anyway, and 6 if he's going well. Even though people want him to be, A-plus material right away, well, he's not pitching in Springfield and Memphis anymore against those guys where he had 7 innings of 1-run, 1-hit ball. It's just different. Even though the Pirates are not, they're the bad news bears once in a while. Certainly on defense they were this week, but they do have big league players there.
Yeah, I admit that I was startled that it took him 31 pitches to get out of the first inning, but I wasn't surprised overall because the guy hadn't pitched much, and he's still building it back up. And I do believe him because he really seems to be an honest guy to me. I really believe him when he said that he basically was so jacked up that it worked against him, and he had a hard time catching his breath and just kind of settling into where you need to be. And I believe that, and it wasn't an excuse because he even shut that part down. What he said, like, no, I get the ball. I expect to pitch well, and I have to pitch well, and so I don't want to hear about process and all that. So, I definitely cut him some slack. And then it is interesting, only 10 pitches in the third inning, 3 ground balls, like you said. But then some people were pointing out, his fastball velocity dropped, and maybe that was actually a good thing because he hit his spots and, got him to ground out. I mean, he didn't have to throw 95.
Well, he said he was trying to throw through Molina rather than to him in the first couple innings.
Right.
And there's a difference in that. You want to throw as hard as you can and get it over, but he, as you said, he couldn't get it over. And he's not a 95 to 97 guy very often. He's more of a 93, 95 with great breaking stuff and off-speed stuff, the full complement. But he doesn't throw as hard as some of the guys they have. Doesn't need to.
All right, one more thing, because we won't have a chance to talk to you until after this. And we also know that, look, who knows what is going to happen over the weekend with the Brewers or the Cardinals. Hopefully nobody gets hurt and all that. But going into that Milwaukee series, 4-game series, I've kind of shifted my view here because it seems to me the Cardinals have a lot more upside and their pitching's starting to get better, healthier. They're not all the way there where you say, okay, you feel secure in their pitching, but they're adding guys rather than losing guys. I think this thing really is the Cardinals division to lose. And I just wanted to tell you how I felt because I wanted to give you a chance to swat me down if you disagree.
Well, no, I don't disagree because Peralta's out for a long time. We're not quite sure how long Woodruff's out, and Burns is still there, of course, but that's one of the 3 great all-star pitchers that they had from last year. All those guys were on the all-star team. They didn't all pitch in the game, but they were all on the team. And that was their strength, besides the 2 great relievers in Williams and Hader. And their offense is not a strength. Their defense really is not a strength. It's not horrible. They're pretty strong at second base when Wong is playing, and Adames is good at short. But Rowdy Tellez doesn't remind me of Vic Power at first base. So there's one for you. And
he's not. So you're telling me he's not Wes Parker?
He's not Wes Parker either, or he's not Joey Votto, or a lot of other guys. He is maybe Juan Yepes, but nonetheless, their strengths are pitching, and their strengths have been sapped with those loss of those 2 guys. I mean, Lauer's been okay. Ashby got hurt the other day too, and Hauser,
Yeah.
who beat pretty much only the Cardinals last year, I think beat them 3 or 4 times, has not been pitching that well either. So they're in a pickle there. Are they good enough to make the playoffs? Well, probably, if they don't have to overuse Hader and Williams. But maybe they're not as. I don't think they're the best team in the division right now. The Cardinals are getting guys back, other than Molina being out, which is a big loss. But the Cardinals are getting guys back, and Flaherty, and then perhaps Matz, and they've already gotten Carlson back, and they've gotten a couple of injured players have been back. And the Brewers are losing guys. I see Wong hasn't played all week. So he must be on the injured list, or
he is.
out
he
anyway.
is.
Yeah.
And that Aaron Ashby, he started last night, and he's a really good pitcher, and he was obviously helping them.
And he's left-handed, which the Cardinals would like to see a lot of left-handers, but nonetheless, he gives them a good 4 or 5 guy in the rotation. Now he was up to 2 or 3. They got Burns, and really nobody else they can hang their head on except maybe Lauer.
Yeah, and then I think, and I don't know the severity of what Ashby. He left the game with the dreaded tightness in the forearm, so I don't know if there's a follow-up today. But that's always an ominous thing.
That sounds like a couple 3 starts anyway. It sounds like an IL with pitchers that even having to go to 15 days. I think they would still do that, and they're a sharp operation there. They'll give you whatever they do. Standings-wise or record-wise, is going to be as good as they can do it because they're a sharp bunch there.
No doubt about it. Commish, thanks for your generous allotment of time today. I hope you have a good weekend and you have a little fun, a little relaxation, and all that good stuff.
You
too. We'll talk next week, my friend.
We got the Little Bears in for the first time next Friday night there.
I wonder if the losing streak will be over by then.
You think it won't be at 18 games? I don't know. It could be, I guess.
Yeah. The fact that the Braves, with their winning streak, what is it, 13 or 14 now? I don't even remember.
No, 14 before today,
So you got a team going into Chicago with a 14-game winning streak playing the home team that's lost 10 in a row. That Bob Nightingale had a note on that. And no, actually it was Jesse Rogers, and I can't remember what it was, but it's highly unusual. This hasn't happened, if at all, in decades where you have something like this going on.
And it seems improbable the Braves would win all 3 games. There is a law of averages there when you're talking about.
Yeah.
All teams have big league players. Some just have more good big league players than the other one. But the Braves, the Braves pitch has been okay. It hasn't been. They're not shutting everybody out here. They're just outscoring them with a thunderous lineup.
Absolutely. Well, good luck with everything you're doing this coming weekend, and have some. Like I said, I'm repeating myself, but have some fun. And I know you'll be intensely watching Game 2 of the Avalanche and Tampa Bay Lightning.
I may have it on for a while. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely look forward to it. Watch the U.S. Open. I'm always into that. I don't know what happened today though. I usually start watching those things on Saturday. So.
Well, it's still happening. They're still playing. I mean, I think there's a few contenders there, but I don't know. It's like you say. They're just trying to get to the cut right now, and which is going to be about 3 over, I guess. And then I did give up 2.5 hours of my life watching the NBA game last night, which was awful.
That team is so tough, so smart, so savvy. They started throwing all these defensive things at Tatum and the Celtics, and they didn't know what to do. They just took the fight out of them for the most part. They were just so confused and frustrated, and I mean that's one hell of a team. I mean, if Golden State, my goodness, I mean 6 finals and 4 titles in 8 years, and and then 2 years ago they were 15-50, and then I was talking to Jim Hewer about this. And Bob Meyer, instead of doing he's our GM, instead of doing something stupid like, well, I'm going to trade a bunch of draft picks and we'll get James Harden in here or something dumb like that, He went the other way. He said, well, we'll eat these losses and let's get younger. And he gets Wiggins in there and Poole in there, and they got 3 top 15 draft picks on their bench that haven't even played because, there's no room at the end, but.
Well, Wiseman, it was pretty good for him last year,
He was, and then they have those 2 other guys, Moody, and I can't remember the other guy. It was a kid from Nigeria who played prep school basketball. He's a small forward. He's really good too. So, but that look, and I know they got Klay Thompson back, but to go from the worst record in the league and 2 years later you win your fourth championship. I mean, if that ain't a great organization, I don't know what is.
And he brought back Iguodala just to be a coach on the bench. They got him in for 20 seconds last night just to say he could play, but he's coaching those guys. Like Wiggins came out one time, and he coached them for like 3 or 4 minutes on the bench about what he was doing well and what he wasn't. Wiggins was listening intently. Most NBA players, I don't think, would listen that long to any kind of instruction, but he did.
And you had probably checked out of the game by then, but he did the same thing with Gary Payton II, where Gary Payton II was getting a little too hyper.
Oh, I did see that too. You're right.
Yeah, he was being a little overly aggressive, and I thought what Iguodala did was fantastic. And you're right. I mean, he's going to be a head coach real soon, maybe even as soon as next year sometime. I don't. He's part. He was a big part of that nucleus too, even though he was hurt this year. He was a big part of what they did. So I really enjoyed watching that team. I think Jason Tatum, Kamish, will be better because of this. I really do. I mean, it's the first time in his career. You can talk about the regular season all you want. And I don't think the other three teams had the depth or that savviness, that championship pedigree. But, you know, when he became the entire focal point of what Golden State calls, you know, their point of attack defense. And he even said something last night about, in effect, I'm going to just translate, that a big part of his summer is going to be studying what they did to stop him so he can handle it better the next time. I mean, they're beating the hell out of him in Boston, but I tell you what, he's going to find value in this pretty tough experience. He'll use it to find ways to improve.
Well, that's just so much different playing a team 7 times in 12 days, and you might play them 2 times all season.
Right. Absolutely. All right, what else we got to cover? Anything? I think we're good.
All right.
I've enjoyed it.
I have to. Talk to you next week.
All right, next Friday we'll do that. That's our friend, the commish. God, I love that conversation. We were talking about everything there. So what do you think, Jim Hewer?
He is the best. I know that 100%.
When I know he has time and we can just sort of wander into other areas, it's really a treat. I mean, really a treat. So enjoy the commish so much.